Hey everybody, welcome back to another design tutorial in Adobe XD, and today we will be designing this landing page website design and also prototyping it like this. And we'll have all the information here and also a get in touch with us form and also these social buttons. And if I click on this button, it'll go back to its original state. So without further ado, let's just get started. So to start off, we want a 1920 by 1080 artboard. Perfect. And I will rename this to home. You can name it to anything simple, something that you can remember. And first of all, we will create the background, and for that we will create a rectangle which fits the background edge to edge. Perfect. And I've already downloaded the image. So this image has been downloaded from unsplash.com. You can go check out unsplash.com from the link I've given down in the description. And let me just adjust it so it's somewhat in the center. Perfect. Now I am going to lock this and say Command L to lock this layer so that it doesn't move around. And let me put this in the center. And let me put the text down which will say meditate. And the font I'm using here is Alexandria. I've already saved this in this Adobe XD file. I'll be giving this Adobe XD file down in the description. Check the download link and download it for yourself. So let me just center this out, make sure this is centered, and I'll just center it visually as well. And let me bring this right above the mountains like this. Perfect. And also let me put a full stop at the end. It just adds a little bit of aesthetics to the whole design. And center this out a little bit more. Perfect. Now we have this centered in our design. Now what we have to do is go to Object. After selecting this, go to Object, say Path, and inside the path you'll see Convert to Path. You have to convert this to path to give it a gradient. So inside fill, I will say linear gradient. And as you can see, there are 2 points. So at the bottom point, I'll select the bottom point here and I'll reduce the opacity by about 50%. You can do slightly more. You can do somewhere around 30. If you're feeling, like doing that, you can do that. And I will just hold Option, replicate this and put this here, and I will hold the bottom point here and just make sure it's inverted. Perfect. And to make sure that it's the same size, you don't have to make sure that it's the same height. In fact, you must make sure this is shorter than this, so it's kind of stretched out at the bottom. It kind of gives that 3D reflection effect right here. And let me just bring this down a little bit. Just make sure it's aligned, and right above the mountains here as well, just place it right here. Perfect. And I'll give this an opacity of 50%. Maybe slightly less, 30%. Perfect. Now it looks like it's a reflection in the water. That's what we're going for. And we lock both of these out so that we can't really move it when we're adjusting anything else. And now I'll make the navigation real quick. For the navigation, I will bring the text right here again and I'll say home. And obviously we will be changing the font here. We'll be changing it to Cerebri Sans 24 points. I'll give the link to Cerebri Sans down in the description as well. It's a premium font, but you can use any other sans serif font instead of that. Cerebri Sans regular, and I'll make this black. Perfect. And make sure it's right above this M. So I'll align it like that, and it should be 24 points. Perfect. And I will underline this a little bit. So for an underline, I'll just use the line tool and place it right below this and make sure it's the same width as the text here. And change the border to black. Perfect. And now what I'm going to do is I will just make sure that it's aligned perfectly as well. Perfect. And 1 pixel in size is fine for this border. Perfect. And I will just replicate this now. Let me just hold on Alt or Option and just replicate it. Make sure it's 30 pixels apart from each other. and rather than home, I'll say about. Perfect. And let me make the size of this underline the same width as well. Perfect. And I'll duplicate this again, put this right besides it, 30 pixels apart. And about, I'll say contact. Contact. Perfect. And I'll bring the line the same width as contact as well. And we want one last item right here. And for that, I'll just duplicate just this text, not the underline. And I'll say book a session. Perfect. And behind this, I will put a black background. So make sure it's the same height as the text, slightly more than the text, in fact. And that's about it. And make sure there's no border, and give it a black. Perfect. And place it right behind the text. Perfect. And I want the text to be this, still not being able to fathom what color this is. It seems like a sea blue or a super light teal, I guess, or maybe like a mix between teal and turquoise. I'm not sure. If you know the color, I'm not remembering the color, just put that down in the comments so that I know what color this is and I remember that shit. So I'm going to select all of these and make sure they are properly aligned in the center. That's about it. And for the navigation, since we're already at the home, we want this to be highlighted. So for that, we will just copy this background over. Let's copy this background here. And make sure this is the same width as home and slightly shorter in height as well. So just about size of the text. Perfect. And put it behind this text. Yes, and make sure the text is this color, is the theme color as well. Make sure this is slightly centered. Perfect. Now we know that home is highlighted and this is the home. And obviously book a session is a different button, so we've placed it with this background right here. And for home, what we're going to do is, rather than giving it a black background, we will just give it a black border. So just change the border to black and remove the fill in itself, and make sure this inside the text is black as well. So now you know home is highlighted and book a session is a different button. So you have to make sure that a button should look different from the navigation, right? You don't want them to, the user to be confused about what has been highlighted and what is a button that he or she has to press. So that's important, right? Now we will create the bottom bar, which will be the actual content. And for that, we will create a rectangle, which is about 40 pixels, about 80 pixels less than the width of this artboard. So make sure this is 100% width of the artboard. The heartboard. Yeah, they should name it heartboards rather than artboards, you know. I'm just kidding. Make sure this is black, first of all. And to make sure it is 80 pixels less than the width, there's a cool little trick. The width here is 1920. So we want it to be 1920 minus 80. So this is a cool little math trick you can use inside Adobe XD, and press enter. And as you can see, this is now 80 pixels less than the total width, and place it in the center just like that. Perfect. Now what we want to do is we want a symbol here. I've already saved the symbol. Symbol is basically an arrow, which I've made here in Adobe XD, and make sure it is at the center of this rectangle and about 60 pixels from the borders. Perfect. Perfect. And place it about 30 pixels from the top, so just like that. And it should merge in with this background. Perfect. And we also want a text indicating what will be down below. So know more about our sessions. Since we have already said book a session, we would like to know what the sessions will be all about. So contextually, that is correct. I'll make this the same greenish, lime green. Yeah, it's kind of like a lime green, but slightly on the greener side and less on the lime side. Now I got it, I guess. So let me make sure this is at the it's ending at the center of this arrow and is about the center of this rectangle. So now you know more about our sessions will be in this part. Perfect. So the first page is officially done. Let's check out how this looks. Wow, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good to me. Unsplash.com, bless you. Now what we want to do is we want to make the actual expanded page. So go ahead, select this artboard and say Command D to duplicate it. Now here I will make certain changes. I want to hide the navigation. So quickly go ahead and select the entire navigation from here. Don't worry, the background has been locked so it won't be selected. And reduce the opacity to 0. Perfect. Now I want to unlock this text which says meditate and say Command L to unlock it again. And make sure this is rather than the gradient is now completely opaque, so it's completely black, and reduce the size quite a bit, to be honest. And from the center we want it to come here right next to book a session and just place it about 30 pixels away. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Now you have meditate at the top and book a session just right here. Now you have the heading, the title, meditate and book a session, which is important because that is call to action for this page. Right here I will rotate this, I will say ungroup symbol and rotate it completely, so about minus 180 degrees for sure. And know about our session. I'll tell you what we will be doing with this in just about a moment. Increase the height to about a little below this line and give a lot of space just so that this green portion is left. You don't want yellow to be merging in. And increase the width by just increase it to the edges just like this. And know more about this session. I will bring it right here to the top, change it to black and place it just below book a session about here, and increase the size from 24. We won't change the size of the text, rather we'll just change the size right here. We'll just scale it up and make sure it's right below know more about our sessions, and place it about here. Perfect. Place it right above this and make sure it's 20 pixels above this. Perfect. Let me just lock this down just for right now, and we will create the cool video players that we want here to showcase the user what our sessions are all about. We want a video as well. Make sure it's right about here. You don't have to make sure it's a fixed width or anything or fixed height. Whatever suits you goes for me. So I've already picked out some images again from Unsplash. Unsplash is a cool site, check it out, and not a sponsor by the way, so if somebody from Unsplash is watching, please do sponsor me, Unsplash. So right here we will create 3 bubbles. So I'm famous for making bubbles, so that'll be something I'll never quit. So make sure this is the same lime green, so as to say, make sure it's about 40% in opacity. Just duplicate it and create another one. Make sure this is large and place it just about there around the edge, and then make another circle which will be about the same size but slightly below this. Perfect. And make sure this is about 80% in opacity. I'll tell you in a minute why, and I'll increase the size of this circle as well. Perfect. So we have 3 bubbles. I'm going to group all 3 bubbles here. Say Command G to group it. And here we want the same size rectangle. So we'll quickly go ahead and create a rectangle which is of the same size. It could be of a different height, but make sure it covers these circles. Say Command Shift M to just mask these. Perfect. So it won't overflow this element right here. And here I will make a quick play button. For that I'll create a circle. make sure the circle is about 60 pixels in diameter. I hope I'm saying that right. And remove the border, and I want a rectangle. So for that, I'll create a square and go to plugins. I have a useful plugin which I use in almost all of my videos. It's called Convert Shape, and it converts to triangle just like that. I'll rotate this about 90 degrees, just like this, and make sure it's much smaller than this. So yeah, that seems to be about okay. And place it at the center. Now the thing about play buttons is that since they're triangles, they're not visually placed correctly if you place it at the center. Make sure it's visually correct. Bring this couple of pixels to the right and make sure it's visually centered. The wider part of the triangle is centered. Perfect. And we want to say subtract from right here. Click on subtract, and it'll just create this cool icon right here. Make sure this has a slight shadow. That's perfect. I don't want a very, like a deep icon or anything. And that seems to be about perfect. And I'll give it this a title, say New York Session. And this is again about 24 pixels. Make sure it's at the center and about 20 pixels from this button right here. And just duplicate this text, put it right below here and say 2019. You want to know the date as well, and reduce the opacity of this text to about 50%. New York Session 2019. Group these elements together as well. You want that. And in fact, group this entire element together. So Command G to group it and make sure it's placed properly. Okay, so there are two elements here, the image and the mask, and make sure everything is grouped. Perfect. And I will just duplicate this, hold Option, duplicate it, put it 30 pixels from the first one. So 1, 2, 3, perfect. And right here I want another image. So what I'll do is I already have another image downloaded from Unsplash, trusty old Unsplash, another meditation session going on. Perfect. Now since the video section is now placed, I want a section with the description. So just duplicate this, quick shortcut, and just make this white text. And the text here should be about, it's 36 pixels. I want it to be about 24 pixels. We're keeping it normal. And to change this into like a text area that rather than just a fixed text box, go here and under text you'll say area text. And you can increase the size of this as you want. Make sure it's not away from the arrow too much, and make sure it's about half of this, so about the size of this video. And I have a quick plugin to insert data. I'll just put in lorem ipsum right now. You can even put in real data to make sure that it looks as real as possible to the actual product. You can say fill with placeholder text, just say that, and it'll give you options. You can I'm just going to use the default, say insert text, and insert some dummy text right here. So now we got the description of our sessions. We want a contact us form. So what I'm going to do for that is I will give a title here, just put a text right here and say get in touch with us. Perfect. And I'll give this the same lime green right here. And right below this, I want to create boxes. So that we create even boxes, I'll copy this box from the top and say Command C to copy it. And I copy it here, it copies here. And make sure the border is this lime green of sorts. 2 pixels in border size, and bring it right here to the bottom. So just below get in touch, about 30 pixels from get in touch, 1, 2, 3. And I want to scale this up. So I'll just hold this and hold shift to scale it up just like this. Perfect. And I'll just duplicate this. So make sure it's about 15 pixels from this text box. So we want it to be half of the distance that we have from the title. and just increase the width to the total of this text box, the text area right here. I'll tell you why in a minute. And duplicate this and fill it with the same color. Perfect. This will make the send button right here. And make sure this is about 30 pixels from the top. I'll just adjust this, make sure it's 30. Perfect. And right here inside this we want placeholder text, so just copy this text over, make sure it's above this box, and make sure it's 50% in opacity. So here you want to say your name, and make sure it's about 15 pixels from the left of this box, and we'll just hold Option and copy this over here as well. Your name will say your email address. Perfect. Now we have your name, we have your email address, and we will just hold Option and just duplicate this text over here as well. Make sure it's above everything and make this a black text, and give this 100% opacity and say send it. We're basically using capitals here since it's a major button. We want it to be capitals, and make sure it's placed at the center of this box. Yeah, that's right about it. And make sure this box is also not that wide, so it kind of fits in the text more appropriately, and put send it in the middle. This is much better. Now again, here, since this book a session is also a button, what we want to change here is say capitals, book a session. That's a better UX practice. Is if all your buttons have capitals, use capitals in all of your buttons all throughout. Make sure this is centered. Perfect. Now that looks much better, and make sure that the original artboard has something like that as well. So book a session. Much better. Looks much more like like an actionable button than a navigation item. Perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'll just copy over from the original designs the Facebook and Twitter and Instagram handles, because for a page like this you'll need something like that as well. Make sure it's centered towards this button. Perfect. And it's at the edge of this. That seems about perfect. It fits right here. And so that was our design. Let's quickly prototype this design and make this something more visual. I'll hold prototype here, and on this arrow I want it to auto animate to the second artboard. So say auto animate, ease in out, and about 1 second. Perfect. And with the same arrow we wanted to bring it back, but here we wanted to bring it back much faster, so 0.6 seconds should do it. So let's prototype it and check this out. And if I click on this arrow, it should animate and everything should be in place. That's a pretty good design. It was a short design, so not too much, just more minimal than having a lot of things in a lot of places. So since I promised you guys that I will be showing you how to export this to a web, to HTML and CSS, actual code, what we're going to do is say plugins. Okay, so the plugin we're going to use today is called Web Export, and say export artboard. And okay, I haven't selected an artboard. I'll select home here, go to plugins and say Web Export, export artboard. And you can have so many freaking options here. You can say page title, so the title that comes in the web browser. And I'm going to say meditate. That's it. And export folder, you can select which folder you want it to export to. I'll just say, I don't know, documents for right now, and say open. And styles, you can select additional styles, alternate fonts if you want, all that good stuff. And I'll say scale to fit. You can say scale to fit. Scale and resize, that is necessary almost for all of the devices today. Center horizontally, you can select that. Set styles in line, I won't be selecting that because we want separate CSS. And all the good stuff is here. You can select anything, and you can even copy this individual stuff here, right here. So I'm going to say export, and go to the folder where I've set it up, and it should open the folder where it is. And let's just quickly search for .html and go to documents here, and here you go, home.html. If I double click here, there you go. We have everything ready on this page, and I can inspect this as well. So if I say inspect element, I'll be able to inspect all the elements. Even the font has been exported, and the font here is actually an SVG path. So much complex stuff just in a small plugin. There are certain fonts that you have to change here, and certain spacing as well. That's true, but most of the stuff has gotten exported, and it's a great starting point if you're a web designer, you just want to start off, or even a great starting point for a developer if you're handing this off. So that was today's video. If you liked the video, do give this video a huge thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel because it helps me a lot, and we're almost there to 2,000 subscribers. And also hit that bell icon so that you get all my videos in your notifications as soon as I post them. And I'll see you in the next video. God bless.